Excellencies, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. I'm happy to be here at this summit and to deliver this address. Thank you. When Sri Lankans receive an invitation from South Korea, beyond the invitation, Sri Lankans remember the long-standing friendship between our two countries. South Korea has treated us as a sibling, especially in the fields of economic assistance, investments, technology, employment, youth affairs, and international transactions. At the outset, I mentioned this with great happiness and gratitude. As a lover of peace, I recognize the pious objective of the summit, which is of universal concern, which is peace on the Korean Peninsula. I respectfully recognize the intended outcome of this summit, which in simple terms is to bring together collective experiences, wisdom, and insights critically required to build mutual understanding, sustainable peace, and prosperity to the world. In addition, I appreciate the importance of the setting of the summit in Seoul.
Please have a wonderful day.
In addition to the beauty of Seoul, it is because of the historical importance of reunification of Korea, North and South. There's a long history of efforts to unify the divided two geographical parts, created by internal and external types of involvement. This separation has created economic downturn and suffering, especially in the North. The revival has happened extensively in the South. This has been the case in some other divided nations as well. Unified states, in the end, have triumphed. The German experience is a good example of collapsing of a wall of separation and building a strong economy. Vietnam has exhibited another novel political institutional arrangement and now has a bubbling economy. These two countries achieved unification in two different ways. Due to the potential political and economic downside, sometimes certain populations resist unification. It happens mostly on the side that enjoys economic affluence. Studies have proved this, even in the case of the Koreas. People fear that unification could negatively affect the lives of the affluent people, especially if it brings substantial migration into their country. However, economic affluence could also result from unification, affluence for both sides. In this case, some people argue that factors such as a shared history, culture, language, traditions, etc., would be assets that should motivate and drive unification. I may mention a commonly known episode. To prove my stance. The spring and summer of 2018 saw an extraordinary rapprochement between the two Koreas. It led to successive face-to-face meetings and culminated in the visit of South Korean President Moon Jae-in to Pyongyang. This visit followed several joint declarations, agreements, hotlines, and other confidence-building measures, including an inter-Korean liaison office in Kaesong, close to the demilitarized zone. It was the first full-time communication channel and served as an embassy between the two sides, which are still technically at war. In June 2020, it was blasted by North Korea, which resulted in blasting much of the progress that had been made over 2 years. This is the complexity and unpredictability one experiences in unification or efforts at peace building. Step-by-step movement may be preferred here too, but what we need is not a step backward, always a consistent step forward. However, governments, bilateral and multilateral international organizations, must find solutions to integrate, make peace, unify quarreling groups, militaries, and countries. It is because war and conflict does not have winners. There are no short or instant solutions. I have learned that there have been studies, even in Korea, showing opposition to reunification. Though short-term difficulties may arise, one must look at the long-term effects. The experiences in the unification of Germany and Vietnam show how two contrasting political ideologies could positively merge. It could happen even in Korea, where the two political systems differ. Though there may be conflicts, we must also consider that there's the common language, culture, traditions, and living patterns which are binding factors for sustainable integration. The possession of resources and technology to manufacture long-range missiles and shoot them from deserts or submarines, etc., is insufficient for integration or unification. Threatening nuclear attacks also will not bring this result. What positive good can such missiles and nuclear armaments serve? Similarly, nothing is solved by drawing a line on the 38th latitude. Marking boundaries based on surveyors' lines have not solved issues with our neighbors, as we see with the Radcliffe Line between India and Pakistan, and what Chief British Negotiator Henry McMahon's line separating the boundaries of Tibet, China, Bhutan, and even India did. Conflicts continue for decades and even today over these boundary lines. I may quote the greatest Indian next to Lord Buddha, Mahatma Gandhi, who said, "Was not war itself a crime against God and humanity? And therefore were not all those who sanctioned, engineered, and conducted wars war criminals?" We can also quote Martin Luther King Jr., who said, "It is not enough to say we must not wage war. It is necessary to love peace and sacrifice for it." Let us swear that we will not be warmongers and war criminals, but peacemakers, and sacrifice in whatever way is required, because the effects will be universal and will benefit humanity forever if we can bestow peace. I sincerely hope that such a strong and willing to sacrifice group will emerge from this summit. Thank you very much for listening to me patiently.